Have you ever noticed how some people seem to wake up every morning with a sense of peace, a smile that feels effortless, a joy that nothing seems to shake, while the rest of the world is rushing, stressed, and drained? Have you ever asked yourself, why can't I feel that way every day? The truth is, happiness is not some magical prize reserved for a lucky few. It's not something you stumble upon after achieving a certain job, buying a certain car, or reaching a certain milestone. Happiness is a skill, happiness is a choice, and yet most people spend their entire lives chasing it in the wrong places. They wait for the perfect circumstances, the perfect relationship, the perfect moment, and by the time they finally arrive, they realize happiness has been right under their nose all along. Imagine this. You could wake up tomorrow, today, right now, and decide to feel joy, regardless of what's happening around you. Imagine being able to face setbacks, criticism, or disappointment and still hold on to a deep sense of inner peace. Imagine no longer letting other people's moods, opinions, or judgments dictate whether you feel good about your life. That's not a dream. That's a possibility. If you know how to take control of your mind, your perspective, and your daily habits. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to do exactly that. How to cultivate a happiness that doesn't depend on luck, circumstances, or other people. How to take back the power that has been quietly stolen from you by stress, comparison, and doubt. And most importantly, how to live a life where happiness is not something you wait for. It's something you create every single day. Because the reality is this: if you don't learn to be happy on your own with what you have and where you are, no amount of success, recognition, or material gain will ever fill the emptiness inside. But once you understand the principles I'm about to share, once you take them seriously, your life will change. You will see the world differently. You will feel differently. And for the first time, you will realize that happiness is not something you find. It's something you build. Most people believe that happiness comes from their circumstances. They think, I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I find the right partner. I'll be happy when my life finally feels perfect. But here's the hard truth. If you keep waiting for the conditions to be perfect, you will never be happy. Life is messy. Life is unpredictable. Life throws challenges, setbacks, and disappointments at every single one of us, no matter who we are or what we have. If you tie your happiness to what happens outside of you, you are handing the keys to your joy over to people, events, and situations that have no loyalty to you. Happiness is not a result of circumstance. It is a result of choice. Every single morning, you wake up with the power to decide how you will feel, how you will respond, and how you will show up in the world. You can choose gratitude over bitterness, patience over frustration, courage over fear. The moment you realize that happiness is a decision, not a destination, everything changes. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission to feel good, and you start creating your own permission right now, in this moment. Think about people you know who seem genuinely happy regardless of what's happening in their lives. Most of them have faced struggles, loss, failure, and disappointment, just like everyone else. But the difference is that they have made a choice. They refuse to allow circumstances to dictate their inner state. When life gets hard, they bend, they adapt, but they do not break. They understand that joy is a practice, not a reward. And that is something you can learn to do too. The first step in choosing happiness is taking full responsibility for your life. Stop blaming others, stop waiting for someone to fix things for you, and stop wishing your situation was different. Blame and resentment are heavy chains that keep you anchored in misery. When you take responsibility, you take control. You acknowledge that while you cannot always control what happens to you, you can control how you respond. That power, the power to respond, is where happiness lives. Now here's the difficult part. Choosing happiness is not always easy. There will be days when your mind wants to dwell on fear, anxiety, or anger. There will be people who push your buttons, situations that frustrate you, and setbacks that tempt you to give up. But every time you consciously choose a positive response, every time you refuse to let negativity define you, you are training your mind to prioritize joy. Happiness becomes not something that happens to you, but something you cultivate actively. One of the most effective ways to choose happiness is to focus on what you can control You cannot control traffic, other people's opinions, the economy, or unexpected events, but you can control your thoughts, your attitude, and your actions. You can decide to wake up each morning and say, today I will look for reasons to be grateful. Today I will focus on what I can do, not what I can't. Today I will find joy in the little things. And here's the secret. When you do this consistently, your brain begins to rewire itself. You start noticing more opportunities, more beauty, more positivity. Happiness is no longer rare. It becomes natural. Another crucial element is understanding that happiness is independent of perfection. Too many people believe that life must be flawless to feel content. But perfection is an illusion. Life is imperfect, chaotic, and unpredictable. The more you wait for perfect circumstances, the more you will delay your joy. The key is to embrace life as it is and find reasons to be happy in spite of imperfection. The birds still sing in a storm. Flowers still bloom on cracked sidewalks. Life offers beauty even when it's messy, and choosing to notice it is a choice you must make every day. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools in making happiness a choice. When you focus on what you already have rather than what you lack, your perspective shifts. You stop comparing yourself to others and you start appreciating the small victories, the everyday moments, the simple pleasures that are all around you. Gratitude is not just a feel-good exercise, it is a practical strategy to take ownership of your happiness. It reminds your mind that even in difficult times, there is always something to celebrate. It is also essential to recognize that choosing happiness is not about ignoring reality or pretending that life is perfect. It is about being present and intentional. It is about accepting what you cannot change, taking action on what you can, and refusing to let negativity steal your joy. Happiness is cultivated through intentional choices, through the way you speak to yourself, the way you treat others, and the way you see the world. Every thought you entertain, every word you speak, and every action you take can either add to your happiness or subtract from it. The choice is always yours. Finally, understand that happiness is contagious. The more you choose it, the more it radiates outward. When you are happy, it affects your relationships, your environment, and even your opportunities. People are drawn to positivity, energy, and joy. By choosing happiness every day, you not only transform your own life, you influence the lives of everyone around you. Your choice becomes a ripple effect, creating a circle of joy that grows beyond yourself. So remember this, happiness is not something that happens to you. It is something you actively decide to create. It does not wait for the perfect circumstances, the perfect job, or the perfect relationship. It begins with you, in this moment, with the power of choice. You can choose to be grateful. You can choose to be present. You can choose to respond with joy rather than frustration. And every time you make that choice, you are reclaiming control over your life, your emotions, and your destiny. The question is simple, but it carries enormous weight. Will you let the world dictate your happiness, or will you choose it for yourself every single day? Your mind is like a room with a microphone that never turns off. Every single thought you think, every single word you speak to yourself echoes louder than anything anyone else says to you. And yet, most people leave that microphone unattended. They let negative thoughts, self-doubt, and fear broadcast through their consciousness without challenge. The result is predictable: anxiety, frustration, and unhappiness. But here's the truth you must understand. The voice inside your head is not a prophecy. It is not a decree. It is a conversation you are having with yourself, and you have the power to change it. Most people underestimate the effect of their inner dialogue. They let criticism, comparison, and past mistakes dominate their minds, thinking that thoughts are just fleeting. But thoughts are not just fleeting. They are seeds. They grow into beliefs. Beliefs shape your actions, and your actions determine the course of your life. If you constantly tell yourself, I can't, I'm not enough, things will never get better, you are conditioning your mind to obey negativity. Your inner dialogue becomes the prison that holds you back. The first step to mastering your inner dialogue is awareness. You have to start noticing what you are telling yourself throughout the day. How often do you catch yourself replaying failures? How often do you let doubt creep in before taking action? How often do you compare yourself to someone else and convince yourself you are lacking? Awareness is critical because you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. Start paying attention to the words you speak internally. Write them down if you have to. Observe the patterns, because once you see them clearly, you gain the power to interrupt them. Interrupting negative self-talk is not just about replacing bad thoughts with good ones. It is about questioning their validity. When your mind says, "I'll never succeed," ask yourself, is this true? What evidence do I have that proves otherwise? When your mind whispers, "You're not worthy," challenge it by listing your accomplishments, your strengths, your unique qualities. The more you question the lies, the less authority they have over you. Remember, thoughts are not facts, they are interpretations, and interpretations can be rewritten. Another key to mastering your inner dialogue is self-compassion. Too often, people treat themselves with less kindness than they would a stranger. They punish themselves for mistakes, replay regrets endlessly, and speak to themselves in ways they would never allow from others. But the voice inside your head should be a coach, not a tormentor. Self-compassion does not mean ignoring mistakes or avoiding responsibility. It means speaking to yourself in a way that encourages growth, learning, and perseverance. When you nurture yourself with understanding instead of criticism, your confidence grows and happiness becomes more attainable. Positive affirmations are also powerful tools when used consistently. But affirmations are not magic words. They are reminders of your truth, your strength, and your purpose, saying, "I am capable. I am worthy of love and success," or "I choose joy today," over and over rewires your mind to focus on what is possible rather than what is limiting. Repetition matters because your subconscious mind absorbs the messages you feed it. What you repeat internally becomes your default belief system. Feed it with encouragement, and it will respond with courage. Mastering your inner dialogue also requires letting go of the voices of others that you've internalized. How many times have you believed someone else's criticism long after they spoke it? How many times have you allowed a parent's doubt, a teacher's judgment, or a peer's insult to shape your self-image? Those voices are not yours. They are borrowed negativity. You have the power to separate yourself from them, to reclaim ownership of your mind, and to speak to yourself with the authority and respect you deserve. It is important to recognize that mastering your inner dialogue is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice, a habit, a discipline. Every day, you will encounter moments that trigger doubt, fear, or frustration. Every day, life will challenge your inner calm. The question is, how will you respond? Will you let your mind spiral into criticism, worry, and despair? Or will you choose to intervene, correct the narrative, and speak to yourself with clarity, courage, and conviction? The more consistently you do the latter, the more naturally it becomes your default mode. Your inner dialogue also shapes your interactions with the world. When you think positively, you act decisively. When you believe in your worth, you set boundaries, take risks, and pursue opportunities. When you speak kindly to yourself, you treat others with more patience and understanding. Happiness, success, and peace are not external gifts. They are reflections of the way you treat your mind internally. If you want to change your life, you must first master the conversation that happens inside your head. Finally, understand that mastering your inner dialogue is empowering. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. No matter what chaos surrounds you, no matter what criticism comes your way, no matter how many obstacles appear, you can choose the voice you listen to. You can choose encouragement over doubt, resilience over despair, gratitude over complaint, and joy over resentment. And when you consistently do this, happiness is no longer a fleeting feeling. It becomes a state of being cultivated and defended from within. So start today. Start noticing the words you speak to yourself. Challenge the lies, silence the harsh critics, and amplify the voice of encouragement and possibility. Treat your mind like the most valuable space you own, because it is. Master your inner dialogue, and you master your life. Your thoughts are not your destiny, but they are the architects of it. Choose them wisely. Speak to yourself with respect, with love, with purpose. And in doing so, you will create a foundation for happiness that no circumstance, no setback, no external force can ever shake. One of the greatest thieves of happiness is comparison. From the moment we wake up, society trains us to look at others and measure ourselves against them. Social media, coworkers, friends, even family, they all become mirrors reflecting what we don't have rather than showing us what we do. And every time we compare ourselves, we give away our power, our peace, and our potential for joy. We begin to chase validation from external sources instead of finding it within ourselves. The sad truth is, the more you seek approval from others, the less approval you give to the person who matters most, you. Comparison is a trap because it is endless. There will always be someone smarter, richer, more popular, more attractive, or more accomplished. If you base your worth on what others have, you are always in debt to their achievements. Happiness tied to comparison is fleeting because there will always be someone doing better than you. And the moment you look outward for validation, your joy becomes conditional. Your inner peace becomes dependent on people who do not hold your best interest at heart. The first step in detaching from comparisons is awareness. Notice when you are measuring yourself against someone else. Pay attention to the triggers, scrolling through social media, listening to gossip, attending events where others seem to shine. Recognize the feelings that arise, jealousy, frustration, inadequacy, and don't judge yourself for them. Awareness is the first act of freedom because you cannot change what you cannot see. Once you acknowledge the comparison, you have the power to choose differently. The next step is to reframe your perspective. Instead of measuring yourself against others, measure yourself against your own growth. Ask, am I better today than I was yesterday? Did I improve? Did I take steps toward my goals? This simple shift transforms your focus from scarcity to abundance, from envy to self-respect. Your journey is unique, your timing is unique, and your path is unique. No one else can walk it for you. Your happiness grows the moment you stop trying to live someone else's life and start investing in your own. External approval is another form of bondage. Too many people live their lives trying to please others, earn recognition, or gain acceptance. They act in ways that are not authentic, speak in ways that are not honest, and make decisions that are not aligned with their purpose. All in the hope that someone will nod, smile, or congratulate them. But the truth is, people's opinions are fleeting. Approval is temporary. What others think of you does not define your worth. If your happiness relies on someone else's validation, you will always be chasing a moving target, a shadow that cannot satisfy the depth of your soul. Detaching from external approval requires building internal validation. You must learn to trust your own judgment, honor your own values, and respect your own desires. When you approve of yourself, you are no longer hostage to someone else's opinion. You can speak, act, and live boldly because your approval is self-generated. This does not mean arrogance or disregard for others. It means confidence rooted in authenticity and integrity. Happiness comes when your sense of self-worth is aligned with your truth, not with the fleeting applause of the world. Another powerful tool is gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what others have to what you already possess. Instead of resenting someone else's success, you start appreciating your own journey, your progress, and your strengths. Gratitude also reminds you that life is not a competition. Your value is not diminished because someone else succeeds. In fact, someone else's success can inspire you rather than intimidate you. If you have detached from the need for comparison, it is also important to remember that everyone's path is different. The timing of life is not universal. Just because someone achieves a goal faster than you does not mean you are behind. Just because someone has more recognition does not mean you are less capable. The measure of your life is your own progress, your own growth, and your own ability to live authentically. When you embrace this truth, the desire for external approval fades. Your happiness becomes internal, stable, and unshakable. Detach from comparison and approval by cultivating self-awareness, gratitude, and self-acceptance. Recognize the times you are tempted to measure yourself against others and replace that thought with reflection on your own achievements. Celebrate your small victories, honor your unique qualities, and focus on becoming the best version of yourself. The more you do this, the less power others' opinions hold and the more control you have over your emotional state. Finally, Understand that detachment is not a one-time event. It is a practice. Every day, the world will offer countless opportunities to compare, to seek approval, to feel envy. But every day, you have the chance to respond differently. Every day, you can choose to look inward, affirm your worth, and prioritize your own growth over someone else's validation. And the moment you consistently practice this, happiness becomes a default state, independent of external conditions, opinions, or achievements. So remember this, no one can make you happy, but no one can make you unhappy either unless you give them permission. Comparisons will always exist, and external approval will always be tempting. The difference is whether you let them control your mind and steal your joy, or whether you reclaim your power and choose happiness from within. Your life is yours to live. Your happiness is yours to create. And the moment you stop chasing validation and start honoring yourself, you will experience a freedom and a joy that no one else can ever take away. Life will never be easy. No one escapes pain, loss, disappointment, or failure. It doesn't matter how talented, intelligent, or hardworking you are. Hardship is a part of the human experience, and yet some people move through life with grace, peace, and a quiet joy, even when the world seems to be falling apart around them. How? They have built emotional resilience. They have learned how to bend without breaking, to recover faster, and to maintain their inner calm when life tries to knock them down. Emotional resilience is the ability to face adversity, manage stress, and bounce back stronger. And it is one of the most important skills you can develop if you want to be happy every day. Resilience begins with perspective. Life will throw challenges at you, but the way you interpret those challenges determines their impact. Two people can face the same setback. One crumbles under the weight. The other finds a lesson, a silver lining, and a reason to keep going. The difference is mindset. Resilient people view challenges not as obstacles meant to destroy them, but as tests designed to strengthen them. Every difficulty carries a hidden lesson, a chance to grow, and an opportunity to prove to yourself that you are stronger than you think. Once you see life this way, adversity becomes less frightening and even meaningful. Another cornerstone of emotional resilience is self-awareness. You must understand your emotional triggers, what makes you angry, anxious, or fearful, and learn how to respond rather than react. Most people are ruled by emotion, allowing frustration or fear to dictate their decisions. Resilient people pause. They observe their emotions, acknowledge them without judgment, and choose how to respond intentionally. This pause is powerful. It allows you to act with clarity, not chaos. It allows you to protect your happiness rather than surrender it to momentary emotion. Building resilience also requires developing coping strategies. Life will test you in ways that are beyond your control, and you need tools to manage stress and recover from setbacks. These tools might include meditation, journaling, physical exercise, or seeking support from trusted friends. They are not a sign of weakness. They are evidence of strength. They are the armor you put on to protect your mind, your heart, and your peace. And the more consistently you practice these strategies, the more resilient you become, capable of facing challenges without losing your balance. Resilience is also about flexibility. Rigid minds break under pressure. People who insist on controlling everything or expecting life to conform to their plans are often the most frustrated and unhappy. Resilient individuals understand that life is unpredictable, and they adapt, they adjust their expectations, pivot when necessary, and remain open to new possibilities. Flexibility does not mean giving up on your goals. It means finding multiple paths to achieve them and refusing to let a single obstacle define your journey. Another critical aspect of emotional resilience is cultivating a sense of purpose. When life feels chaotic or unfair, having a purpose acts as a compass, guiding your decisions and giving meaning to your struggles. Purpose reminds you why you get up in the morning, why you persevere through setbacks, and why happiness is worth pursuing, even when circumstances are difficult. When you align your daily actions with a higher purpose, resilience becomes natural because you are anchored in something deeper than temporary discomfort or external challenges. Resilient people also understand the importance of self-compassion. They do not berate themselves for mistakes, failures, or imperfections. Instead, they treat themselves with the same understanding and kindness they would offer a friend. Self-compassion prevents the spiral of self-criticism that often accompanies adversity. It allows you to learn from setbacks, recover faster, and maintain your emotional equilibrium. The more you nurture yourself internally, the less external events can shake you. It is important to note that resilience is not about avoiding pain or never feeling sadness. Emotional resilience does not mean you suppress your feelings or pretend everything is fine. On the contrary, it means you allow yourself to feel, process, and move forward. Life will hurt and life will disappoint, but resilient people refuse to let temporary suffering dictate their long-term happiness. They grieve, they recover, and they rise again. That cycle of acknowledgement, recovery, and growth is what makes their joy lasting and authentic. Another key to resilience is the ability to maintain perspective in the face of criticism and judgment. People will always have opinions about your life, your choices, and your abilities. Some will criticize, some will doubt, and some will try to undermine you. Resilient individuals do not internalize negative opinions. They listen, learn when appropriate, and discard the rest. By refusing to allow external judgment to control their self-worth, they protect their happiness and maintain their focus on what truly matters. Finally, emotional resilience allows you to embrace uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and stress often comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Resilient people accept uncertainty as part of life and cultivate the ability to respond rather than react. They focus on what they can influence, take proactive steps, and let go of what is beyond their control. This shift in mindset transforms stress into strategy, fear into action, and obstacles into opportunities. The truth is simple. Happiness does not come from a life free of challenges. Happiness comes from the ability to navigate challenges without losing your peace. Resilience is not just a skill. It is a way of being. It is the inner strength that allows you to face adversity, rise above setbacks, and maintain joy, regardless of circumstances. When you commit to building emotional resilience, you are investing in your ability to live a life filled with consistent happiness, no matter what life throws at you. So, start today. Notice your emotional reactions. Pause before responding. Develop coping strategies. Treat yourself with compassion. Stay anchored in purpose, embrace flexibility, reject external judgment, and above all, remember that every challenge you face is an opportunity to strengthen your resilience and deepen your capacity for joy. Happiness is not the absence of hardship. It is the mastery of your response to it. And once you master that, no circumstance, no setback, and no external force can take your joy away. Happiness is not something that happens by accident. It is not something you stumble upon when the world aligns perfectly in your favor. True happiness is cultivated, nurtured, and reinforced every single day through intentional actions, habits, and rituals. Just as a garden flourishes with daily care, your mind and soul flourish when you consciously engage in practices that strengthen joy, gratitude, and peace. The most successful and fulfilled people in the world understand this truth. Happiness is not a momentary feeling. It is a habit, a lifestyle, a daily choice that compounds over time. The first step in creating daily rituals of happiness is intentionality. Life is full of distractions, obligations, and noise. If you wait for happiness to find you amid chaos, it will never arrive. You must decide each morning that today will be a day of conscious joy, gratitude, and presence. That decision, no matter how small it seems, sets the tone for the entire day. It is the mental signal to your brain that your well-being is a priority, and it primes your mind to notice opportunities for joy, moments of connection, and reasons to be thankful. One of the most powerful daily rituals is practicing gratitude. Gratitude is more than saying thank you casually. It is a deliberate practice of acknowledging the good in your life, no matter how small. Start your day by listing 3 things you are grateful for. It could be your health, your family, the roof over your head, or even the simple pleasure of a warm cup of coffee. By training your mind to focus on abundance rather than scarcity, gratitude rewires your brain. It shifts attention away from what you lack and toward what you already have, creating a sense of contentment and inner peace that persists throughout the day. Another essential ritual is reflection. Spend a few moments each morning or evening assessing your thoughts, actions, and intentions. Ask yourself questions like, did I act in alignment with my values today? Or what moments brought me joy? Reflection allows you to recalibrate your mind, recognize progress, and correct course when needed. It is an opportunity to step out of autopilot and consciously participate in your life. Without reflection, happiness becomes reactive, dependent on circumstances, and easily disrupted by external events. With reflection, happiness becomes proactive, intentional, and self-sustaining. Movement and physical well-being are equally critical to daily happiness. Your body and mind are interconnected. When your body feels strong, energized, and healthy, your mind is better equipped to maintain positivity. Daily exercise, even in small amounts, releases endorphins, improves mood, reduces stress, and enhances clarity. This does not require hours in the gym. Simple habits like walking, stretching, yoga, or even dancing to your favorite music can cultivate joy and reinforce a sense of vitality. The point is to move intentionally, honoring your body as a vehicle for your experiences, and using movement as a tool to support your mental and emotional well-being. Mindfulness is another transformative ritual. In our fast-paced, overstimulated world, we often miss the present moment, the very moment in which life unfolds. Mindfulness practices such as meditation, deep breathing, or simply paying attention to your surroundings ground you in the present. They reduce anxiety, quiet mental chatter, and allow you to fully experience the richness of life. Happiness grows when you stop living in the past or worrying about the future and start inhabiting the only space where life actually happens. Now, acts of kindness and service also reinforce daily happiness. When you extend compassion, help others, or offer a genuine smile, your own joy is amplified. Serving others reminds you that happiness is not a zero-sum game. By lifting someone else, you elevate yourself. This ritual creates a ripple effect, connecting you to others, fostering gratitude, and cultivating a sense of purpose. Even small gestures, a kind word, a thoughtful message, a helping hand, can strengthen your emotional well-being and reinforce a habit of joy. Another ritual is intentional learning and growth. Feed your mind with uplifting content, motivational insights, or new skills. Knowledge, inspiration, and intellectual stimulation cultivate a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment, which in turn boosts happiness. Whether it is reading a few pages of a book, listening to a podcast, or practicing a new skill, these daily actions remind you that life is a journey of growth and that each day offers an opportunity to expand your potential. Sleep and rest are equally important. Rituals that support happiness. A fatigued mind cannot experience joy fully. Prioritizing adequate rest is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Create a bedtime ritual that allows you to disconnect from stress, reflect on the day, and enter a state of restoration. When your body and mind are rested, resilience, patience, and positive thinking flow naturally, making it easier to cultivate happiness each day. Finally, the key to these rituals is consistency. Happiness is built through repetition, not occasional effort. Small, intentional actions performed daily compound over time. One day of gratitude, one moment of reflection, or one act of kindness will not transform your life, but repeated consistently, they shape your perspective, influence your emotions, and anchor your well-being. The habits you reinforce today will define your mindset tomorrow, next week, and years from now. So start today, begin with one ritual. Maybe it's writing down what you're grateful for. Maybe it's a 10-minute walk or a quiet moment of reflection. Commit to it. Then layer in others over time. Build a foundation of practices that support joy, gratitude, and presence. Your happiness is not dependent on external events. It is cultivated within. Each ritual you choose, each moment you dedicate to your well-being, strengthens your capacity to be happy no matter what life brings. Remember this, happiness is not a byproduct of success, wealth, or circumstances. It is a cultivated state built brick by brick, habit by habit, ritual by ritual, The small intentional choices you make each day are the building blocks of a life filled with lasting joy. Treat them as sacred, protect them. And over time, you will find that happiness is no longer a fleeting emotion, but a natural, sustainable, and unshakable state of being. Happiness is not a prize at the end of a race. It is not something that waits for the perfect moment, the perfect relationship, or the perfect life. Happiness is a choice, a decision you make each morning, each hour, and each minute. It is cultivated through your thoughts, your rituals, your perspective, and your resilience. It is strengthened by the way you speak to yourself, the boundaries you set, the gratitude you practice, and the moments you consciously embrace. The truth is this: life will never be free of challenges. There will always be setbacks, disappointments, and people who doubt you or try to pull you down. But none of that has the power to determine your joy, unless you give it permission. Your happiness is yours to protect. Your joy is yours to create. Every time you choose gratitude over resentment, presence over distraction, self-approval over validation from others, and resilience over despair, you are reclaiming the power to live fully, deeply, and intentionally. Remember, happiness is not accidental. It is a practice, a discipline, and a commitment. It is built in the quiet moments of reflection, in the choices you make when no one is watching, and in the daily rituals that reinforce your well-being. No one else can live your life for you, and no one else can hand you joy. You must choose it, create it, and defend it with courage and determination. So today, make a vow to yourself to honor your mind, your heart, and your spirit, to speak kindly to yourself, to cultivate rituals that nourish your soul, to detach from comparison, criticism, and external validation, to stand strong in the face of adversity, knowing that every challenge is an opportunity to grow, and to wake up every day determined to live fully, love deeply, and embrace joy intentionally. Happiness is not something that happens to you. It is something you build brick by brick, thought by thought, action by action. And the moment you fully take responsibility for it, you will realize the most life-changing truth of all. The power to be happy every day has always been in your hands. Choose it, own it, live it, and watch how your world transforms from ordinary to extraordinary simply because you decided to be happy.